Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, and today we are talking about the new moon. It's on December 19. I had to check. It's at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. We're going to do a short overview, and then we're going to look at love and money predictions for your sign. So this new moon is at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. This chart is run for my location, so we're not thinking about the houses right now because you're probably not in this location. And so if you want to know specifics about the houses, then run the new moon chart for your own location. But what we see here is, of course, the sun conjunct the moon at late degrees of Sagittarius. This is a very special degree because it's extremely close to the galactic center, which is around late 26, early 27 degrees of Sagittarius. The galactic center is kind of a spiritual nexus. It's a place that stores all the knowledge of the universe. And so as we have this new moon, we have access to the information that we're looking for. We ask the question, and then the universe gives us an answer. And this may not sound so remarkable in the age of, all kinds of information. However, sometimes when there's so much information out there, it's hard to sift through and find the information you really need or to find the truth. And so this is a time where you can get good information, where you can find out what you need and the answers to your questions. Now, this new moon makes a couple of aspects. It's going to make a square to Neptune and Saturn. These two are traveling together right now in Pisces, and so we have lots of forced action here. So the new moon in Sagittarius is about big picture plans. Like what's the adventure you want to be on? What does your personal philosophy say about where you want to go in life? How can you be true to yourself and still explore this place, with that sense of adventure? Now that's getting that square from Saturn and Neptune, which Saturn can be kind of a party pooper, and it says, you should follow the plan. Neptune, on the other hand, has a vision, says, oh yeah, we could do all of the things that we want to do. Now, when these two travel together, I've talked about this many times, it is actually giving us blueprints for constructing the life that we want to live. Now we have a really active period of 2 weeks where we can implement things, find out the answers so that we can take those blueprints and start to work with the energies. So this could be quite an exciting time for starting new projects, for even just deciding that you're going to do a new project, not even getting things done yet, because Sagittarius energy is big thinking. This is the overall goals. This is the trip that you're going to take. This is not which airline it's going to be or how you're going to get to the airport. It's not those details, not yet. This is more about what's the picture and what's the thing that you want. Now, at the same time, we are going to be doing an inconjunct to Uranus, and that means that there's going to be unexpected opportunities and interruptions. So when you're thinking about that is, you sit down to do your meditation, and that's when, your sister calls or the cat throws up on the carpet or something like that. So there can be interruptions. That's not a sign that you're supposed to not do this thing, but it could be a sign that you're supposed to tweak your thinking. You're supposed to do something a little bit different. You're supposed to maybe think not so linearly. Is that the right word? And not so much from A to B to C to D, but to think about, maybe taking a different path to get to where you want. Oftentimes we can get stuck because we get locked into an idea that, A has to lead to B. It has to go from going to college, getting the good job, staying at the job, and then retiring. Like, that never works for anybody anymore. So this is kind of that same thing, but on a smaller scale. It is to look at what it is that you're deciding to do, what you're thinking about doing. And then in that process, if you get interrupted, that's the universe saying, okay, start to think of something different. We also have Venus very close to this new moon. So Venus is kind of chasing the sun right now. Venus is going to form a star point in January. We'll talk about that as we get a little closer. But this is about looking at what you want, rather than maybe thinking about what everybody else expects you to do. So keeping in mind your preferences, your desires. And one more thing I wanted to mention about this chart, and that's Mercury. Mercury's really actually quite isolated. Now, it is in the same sign as this new moon, sitting back there, though, kind of in the corner, not really talking to anyone. It's making an aspect to the North Node and the South Node, but not making an aspect to any of the planets. And so that can mean that the thinking that you're doing isn't related to the other things going on in your life, which means you could have some really unique ideas, ideas that are not influenced by outside forces. Or it can mean that we're not thinking, that we are turning that part off and we're more reacting to things, or we're more just taking action, or we just want to explore and have a good time. And that's because that's in the chart right now. That's actually what we're supposed to do. The other thing that I wanted to point out about this chart is, in particular, this new moon, and we're just going to isolate the moon for a second, is way out of bounds. And Mars is out of bounds as well, so we should mention that Mars too. So out of bounds planets mean that you're willing to break the rules. You're willing to take a risk. So think about, like a typical high school situation where kids are not allowed to leave campus for lunch. When you have an out of bounds planet, you're willing to jump the fence. You're willing to take the risk because you want to go have the adventure. So here we have the moon already in the adventurous sign of Sagittarius and ready to break the rules, as well as Mars, which is sitting there in early Capricorn, and it is also very, very willing to break the rules. And so if you're thinking that you don't want to be hemmed in, that you don't want to be locked into other people's expectations, that's all in line with this new moon energy. Okay, we're going to take a look at your sign, and while we do, if you would be so kind as to hit that subscribe button, that would be fantastic. Okay, Virgo, we want to take a look at your love and money predictions, and so to do that, we're going to first change this chart to a 0 Aries chart, and then we're going to turn the chart so that Virgo is on the ascendant, so these predictions will be for Virgo or Virgo rising. And the first thing we see, well, let me grab a pen first. The first thing that we see is that we've got a lot of energy going on in your area of home and family. Now, that can mean that you're just getting together with family members. Maybe people are traveling to come see you, but this also could be that you are making decisions about relationships with family members, or decisions about your home, whether to stay at this home, renovate this home, rent out part of this home, who can live there or who's not going to live there. And there could be some activity, just basic repairs about the home going on. So a very busy time about home and family. Now, your planet ruler, being that you're Virgo, is Mercury. Mercury's quite extraordinary in this chart because while it is in Sagittarius along with Venus, the Sun, and the Moon, this Mercury is not talking to any of the other planets. It is, however, talking to the North Node and the South Node. So here's the South Node and the North Node, and they are joined by a continuous line, the South Node being what you have been doing, and the North Node being where you're heading. And Mercury is sitting at the crossroads between these two. And so it can do the square going back to the South Node, going back to something familiar. That could be old behaviors, habits, routines, and something that's boring. But it feels safe. So, or going towards the North Node, which is new and exciting and interesting, but could be a little challenging, but leads to happiness. So here you are, and this is, again, related to home, family, and also now relationships. We're pulling in relationships because North Node, South Node in your first house, seventh house. And I said those backwards. The South Node's in your first house. North Node's in your seventh house. So the energy here is that you may be making a decision about an important relationship that will determine how you interact with your family or where you live. So that is that if you take the path that is less familiar, that's the one that leads to happiness. Now, that doesn't mean that you're changing relationships, but you may change how you interact with your current relationship. Now, the interesting thing about an unaspected Mercury is it means you've collected together all of the information already, and now you're ready to make a decision. So even if people still want to give you advice and still want to tell you what to do, you don't care. Because right now, you're ready to make your own decision, and it means that you do it yourself. It's not that you're letting somebody else make this decision for you. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, we're very interested in what's going on in the fifth house. You have Mars there now, so there's a lot of energy and activity. Mercury is not making an aspect, however, to that Mars, nor is it making an aspect to Saturn, Saturn being the ruler of the fifth house, but Saturn is in the seventh house in your area of relationships. So this all boils down to you may get somebody knocking on your door, texting you, calling you, something like that, to say, I want to go out with you, and you are in a place where you're saying, not right now. Let's do it later. Let's do it in a couple of weeks. Let's do it in a month. Or you might miss it entirely because you are, just your thoughts are elsewhere. And your friend might be tugging on your sleeve. Hey, that person's asking you out. But you're like, no, not right now. So the energy here is that if you are looking for love, you have to be quite conscious about it. Because right now, the ruler of your chart is in the fourth house, which means you didn't go to the party or you didn't go to the social event, but you also don't look like you're answering your phone to say yes to the request. So again, very easy to change that. Just be conscious of it, then say yes, and then something can happen. Because you do have Saturn in the seventh, you'll have it there for a while, but that is good for creating a solid relationship. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, we're very interested in what Mercury, the ruler of your sign, is doing with the ruler, or in your case, rulers of your descendants. So the two rulers are Neptune and Jupiter. So, and of course, this, when we say, what's Mercury doing? Mercury's not talking to either of these, except that Mercury's in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, so you have a hidden connection. And so that was a really long way of saying that the two of you are kind of just doing your own thing, but the basis of the relationship is still strong. And so if something comes up where you need to work with each other, you need to start with the, like, we've been together this long, or we both love shrimp, or whatever is the connection between the two of you. But start with that, and then you're going to find that you have a meeting of the minds, that you can be united about whatever the situation is. If you otherwise come in and say, oh, I'm upset about this, and they say, I'm upset about that, you're talking about two different things. You're not necessarily connected. So find the shared connection first, and then you'll be able to work out things over the next 2 weeks. Otherwise, you're just kind of two ships passing in the night. You're doing your thing, and they're doing their thing, and the 2 weeks go by. And now, when it comes to your money, we want to know what's going on with the ruler of your second house. That is Libra, that is sitting there conjunct this new moon. That's some very good energy. That is that there's something new that you're starting. This may be an idea that you had for a business, maybe a family business, maybe a business you're running out of your home, maybe it's something to do with real estate, but there is something where there is some exciting possibilities for especially expanding, even doing something that is related to international work, legal work, or education. So you have that sort of energy going on, which could bring you some financial opportunities. Did you know that I do a weekly illustrated newsletter? It is all about the happenings of the week astrologically, and it comes free in your inbox. And so if you like astrology and you love black cats, this is the newsletter for you. There is a link to subscribe in the description. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, we want to know what Venus, the ruler of your second, is doing with Mars, the ruler of your eighth. And right now, they're not talking to each other. They're a little too far apart. Now, Venus moves pretty fast, and so Venus is going to catch up with that Mars. That's great. That will give you some opportunities, but that is way outside this 2-week period. So in the meantime, this is that you are moving towards something. It does feel a little bit out of reach. It's not going to be out of reach forever, but if you stop reaching for it, it'll definitely be out of reach. So that is, and you're probably not going to want to hear this, but it is that you keep going. You keep going, even if you're just getting small results, because these results get bigger as these planets come together. And right now, they're just a little bit far apart. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be a paycheck, it's an entirely different story, because we want to know what Venus is doing with the moon, ruler of your 11th house, and they're conjunct. They're conjunct right here, all snugged together, and that means that you and your boss could be of one mind, that you could both be on the same page for the same goals, and that goal could be getting you a better position. This could indicate being in the 4th house, that maybe you have a work-at-home opportunity, and that might be in lieu of a raise, but sometimes working at home is worth the not getting the raise for. But this could also mean more money, more opportunities. This may be that they have bigger plans for you, and so that could be discussed, but you have some very good energy. This also might mean that you are looking around for some new opportunity. You're going to have really strong new opportunities coming, like next spring, or of course if you're in Australia, that would be next fall, as we get towards April, May, June, that time. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you get notified for upcoming videos. With an astrology reading, you get more information about who you are, your talents and abilities. You get to see what obstacles are ahead, and you can get a game plan for how to get past those obstacles and find success. So if you're interested in having a reading, there's a link in the description.